So last month, James Gunn's Superman movie finally hit theaters, and it's already out on digital, but that's besides the point, serving as the launching point for our new DC cinematic universe. And as a lifelong DC fanboy, I personally could not be more excited to see what Mr. Gunn has cooking up moving forward. But disregarding all of what's to come for this franchise and what this movie does to set up the future of the DCU, is it actually a good movie? Well, I don't, just watch the video, we'll find out. I could have sworn I had more vlog footage from when I saw Superman opening day, but for some reason, this is the only clip I could find. OMG. We are so bad. So I thought I'd go out with some of my friends and try to make it up to you guys. So we're at Dairy Queen right now, gonna try the limited edition Superman Blizzard. It's like blue with like weird crumb things in it. Okay, film more discreetly. Do they have it? Oh, they do. Should I get the cup?
Yeah, sure.
I kind of want more. No, I'll get the small one. Can I get a medium Oreo Blizzard, and then I'll also do a small Superman Blizzard? It was 25 bucks. I don't know. So I don't really know what's in it. It looks like there's like, I think it's a marshmallow. I don't really know. Take a look. It's melting, but it's also a mess. All right, ready? 8 out of 10. Okay, there's cookie dough bites. Lots of bits. It's actually pretty good. Well, I really like Blizzards, so bonus points, but the flavor of the ice cream is so neutral. It's just kind of sweet, like vanilla. And there's good bits. Like, I like the bits, but I think I'm gonna give it like a 7. There's a bug on my glasses. Do you see the bug? Get off! No! When Superman gets drawn into conflicts at home and abroad, his actions are questioned, giving tech billionaire Lex Luthor the opportunity to get the Man of Steel out of the way for good. Will the intrepid reporter Lois Lane and Superman's four-legged companion Krypto be able to help him before it's too late? Spoiler alert, yes, obviously they were able to, although Krypto didn't really do much of the saving, except for the end, but they make it seem like Lois and Krypto working together. They did not work together. The movie ends with the Justice Gang putting Baravia in their place, Superman putting Lex in his place, Clark and Lois kiss, and he smiles at the camera before the credits. In my opinion, the best part of this movie is, well, a lot of things, but they all kind of tie back to Superman/Clark Kent's characterization. The main thing that sets it apart from all of its predecessors is that David Cornsweet's Clark Kent feels like a real dude. And the whiplash of that distinction might hit people pretty hard, going from basically a Jesus allegory to what the hey dude. But I think this movie goes on to prove that in spite of all of his crazy superpowers, flight, super strength, heat vision, freeze breath, super big red plastic S thingy, making him human and making him imperfect is really how you make his character compelling. I rewatched some of the older Superman movies in the months building up to this one, and in all of those, I can't help but think they treat Superman as less of a character and more of an unstoppable force. So rather than following him along on any emotional arc, wondering how he's gonna prevail, is more about how anyone is gonna possibly stand in his way, or what the repercussions of his existence are to the rest of the world. Most superheroes are average guys, but the twist is they're secretly a crazy superpowered being. But I feel like Superman is the inverse of that, right? He's a crazy superpowered being that is secretly an average guy. And that idea is the driving force of this movie. Yes, Clark encounters plenty of physical conflicts in this movie, but you only ever care about them for the ways that they connect to his internal one. As far as performances go, David Cornsweet was pretty great casting in my opinion. He doesn't get any crazy emotional moments where I'm like sitting in my seat thinking, damn, this guy's cooking. But I think that this movie requires Superman to showcase a large array of emotions, and it's David's commitment to all of those different emotions that I think makes his performance so memorable. The fact of the matter is, every Superman iteration before this, and I say Superman meaning when he's in costume being Superman, he's always as stoic as hell. And I'm all for really goofy Clark Kent, but in 2025, I think this more introverted, unassuming take on him makes more sense. Clark Kent is most commonly described as a mild-mannered reporter. So while the Christopher Reeve's ditzy, over-the-top Clark is really fun to see in contrast to his stoic Superman, I feel like this depiction makes Clark and Superman feel more like two sides of the same coin, rather than either being an exaggerated version of who Clark really is. David does a particularly great job at selling the wholesomeness of Clark's character, where he just wears his heart on his sleeve and has this wide-eyed optimism that seeps into everything he does in this movie. So much so that everyone around him thinks he's delusional. And I don't want to jump to James Gunn, but by the end of the movie, you see that it actually isn't rooted in obliviousness, but it's a choice that Clark continues to make. A lot of people meme the "where's the dog" scene, I think because they feel like he's overacting, and you know, he's definitely giving a lot, but I kind of feel like it's all part of his charm, you know, of wearing those emotions, honestly, the good ones and the bad ones. I like that this movie doesn't shy away from having that quality of his look like a flaw at times, you know, it's all part of Clark being human. Speaking to the mic. Oh, chocolate pretzel? Oh my god, it's so good. Come down so you can see. What did you think of Superman? You watched it again last night, right?
Yeah. You know what? I did like the monologue better the second time.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think out of 10, what did I rate Fantastic Four?
You gave it 8.5.
I'm gonna give Superman a 9.
Ooh.
Because I just think it's a little bit better.
And then your favorite scene?
Probably the scene where he saves that woman on the bridge.
Oh, that was sick.
And then like
And
rises
then he rises up in all the. Oh my god. That was peak. That was peak. That was peak. Okay, now get out.
Okay.
I'm filming. You know better than to come in while I'm filming.
Okay.
Get out.
Okay.
Anyways, from what I can tell, a lot of people didn't like that they made Clark's blood parents, I was gonna say evil, but let's just say elitist, misogynistic, and old-fashioned. But I actually kind of liked it. Yes, because of the unique introspective conflict that it poses for Clark, but also because I feel like Marlon Brando's insistence on making everything about himself has led people to think that Jor-El as a character matters, like, at all. Superman is the hero that he is because the Kents cooked, not because the L's sent them the ingredients. Jor-El's just a super jizz, bro. And I'll be honest, I think anyone that doesn't like that choice solely because it's not comic accurate just needs to chill, alright? Comic accurate does not always mean better, bro. Like, don't you think that actually makes Superman's character a little bit more interesting? That instead of being destined to serve as Earth's protector by his progressive, good-intentioned, freaking civil rights activist, LGBTQ ally parents, he was actually sent there to kill them all, but he was just raised by the right humans and became a hero. So now that the movie's on digital, apparently someone zoomed really close into one shot and found this. Daily Planet shows Luthor was behind the false images of Superman's parents. So now people have even more reason to believe that maybe this isn't Jor-El, but actually Zod. What? No way. To any of those mental gymnasts watching right now, I just want to ask, what's more likely? That a blink and you miss it graphic was worded a little weirdly to foreshadow a retcon that completely cheapens one of the main plot points of this movie? Or that whoever put together this, again, blink and you miss it graphic just worded it a little weirdly and James Gunn didn't point it out because, I don't know, maybe he blinked. If he actually planned on foreshadowing that the message was doctored, it wouldn't be like this, guys. They wouldn't have so many people in this movie insist that it's legit. That's not how storytelling and foreshadowing works. But in the off chance I'm completely wrong and they do retcon this in future DCU projects, I'm boycotting this universe because its executives would be spineless, chronically online, approval-seeking idiots. Nah, I'm just kidding. It is really not that deep. At the end of the day, if you don't like it, I can't blame you, but I personally did not see it as an issue at all. I actually really liked it. My favorite Clark scene is probably his conversation with Lois in the apartment that kicks off the second act of the movie. Maybe that's the real punk rock. Like, that's so cute, bro. And I think that's a really simple way of putting it, right? Because later on in the movie, we get this extensive monologue where Clark, explains why he is the way that he is and really digs deep into the emotion of his character. And I think that's a great scene, but I also like how cute and concise he puts it here. Maybe what the hey dude is the real punk rock. Now, I'm a believer that Lois is the single most important part to a Superman movie, okay? I know I was just going on about making him human and doing all the characterization right, but I don't care about all that. It's Lois. She's the key. If Lois ain't there, I don't really care. And Rachel Brosnahan as Lois is perfect casting, bro. Thanks to the ways that James Gunn humanizes Clark in this movie, him and Lois feel like an actual believable couple. Because instead of Lois fawning over this big, burly, jacked god that saves her life a billion times over, the two of them are equals. They argue, they banter, they make out on the kitchen counter while he's making her dinner. In fact, James Gunn actually takes that up a notch and makes it so Lois is the one that's uncertain about him. I love that choice so much because it shows that she's not putting him on a superheroic pedestal. I'll be honest, if I was dating Superman, I'm giving in all the time, call me submit man. But that's what makes them perfect for each other, It's like so simple, but it's so good. My favorite Lois scene is, I don't really have one. We spend a lot of time establishing Lois and Clark's relationship in the beginning, and you get that line where she's like, I told you I'm not good at relationships, but that line really doesn't get resolved. They have a flying kiss scene, and it's adorable, and it made me giggle in my seat when I saw it for the first time, and the second time, and it felt like they were planting these seeds throughout the movie that was gonna lead to this one cathartic moment where Lois finally finds the courage in herself to admit that she's in love with this big 6'5" handsome guy that's also a superhero. Like, open your eyes, woman. Maybe that moment was supposed to be the Kent farm scene where she's like looking around his room, seeing the freaking mighty Crabjoys. But I don't really know. Like, it feels like it's coming from her. The issue is not Clark. So while I can understand why a scene like that would like sell her on Clark and make her like him, she needs to do that self-reflection, to like overcome her demons. That didn't really happen. Give me a moment that takes place right before the bench scene where her and Martha are like doing the dishes or something in the morning, getting to know each other a little bit. They both see Clark sitting out on the bench alone, and Ma's like, that's my baby boy Clark. He's always looking after the entire world. I'm just glad he has someone looking after him. Like, tell me that wouldn't slap. Then you cut that scene with Paul walking up, asking where Clark is, and they point outside. It really slips right in. But maybe I'm just a romantic and wanted this to be a romantic rom-com movie. I don't know. Going back to the task at hand, I guess my favorite scene of hers is the interview scene. I love getting to see her in action, doing her reporting. And their chemistry is obviously electric. But why don't we get into my thoughts on Lex? I loved him. Honestly, just like the other two, and really like the entire cast. badass. You kind of know he's going to be great in the role just by looking at him. That is Lex Luthor. Rachel Brosnahan is Lois Lane. Alan Tudyk is Superman Robot number 4. A lot of the other portrayals of Lex in the movies are super over the top. You just kind of revert to making him this big personality so he can contrast someone that's obviously so much more powerful than him. And some of those are pretty fun, but I really like how this one kept his composure. And the irony of that with how obsessed he actually is with taking Superman down is Lex Luthor. You know, like that's the basis of his character, in my opinion. And that also makes it more entertaining in the moments when he does lose his cool, albeit sometimes it's a little cartoony. There's literally a scene where he's like, no, no, no. And I'm like, stop whining, you bitch. Wow. But that's kind of the point. I feel like, you know, the thing with this movie is that there's a handful of dialogue moments that feel kind of over the top and over-explanatory. And I don't really mind it because I feel like it's an homage to that style of speaking that you see in comics. You know, if you think about it, comics as a medium doesn't allow for any expression in like delivery. It's just one picture and words. So because of that, you have a lot of moments where Batman or Superman or Lex and other characters go on these long monologues to try and squeeze the content, the emotion in their delivery, and their overall personality all into one tiny speech bubble. I think Lex might be the biggest victim of that kind of syndrome in this movie. Definitely comes off as cartoony at times, but I mean, come on, the 1A scene, that shit was fire. Unlike a lot of the villains we've been getting lately who are actually good, just a little misguided, and get talked out of their big monster form through the power of friendship, Lex does all of the bad stuff that he does fully knowing that it's bad, but also just believing that he has just cause. And my favorite Lex scene is probably the 1A scene. I just feel like that's the easy choice. But sleeper pick, give me the revolver roulette scene. I love how it only takes 2 shots before it fires, and he like takes a beat just from being shocked that it was so fast, you know? It's not a full beat, it's kind of like half a beat, like a bit, but then he just carries on. That to me shows that he still has a little tiny bit of a heart in there. Like, it's not like he's doing this because he likes killing, you know? He's not one of those villains that just wants to watch the world burn. And with the big monologue moment at the end, I think Superman is holding out hope that one day Lex will stop letting envy cloud his judgment and realize that Superman's existence doesn't actually tear Lex's being down, but builds it up. I really love their dynamic because Lex is like trying to kill Superman, and Superman's just holding out hope that someday Lex turns good. That's the Smallville dynamic, that's the comic dynamic, that's how they should be. It feels early, but should I get into the speech? All right, let's get into the speech. On my first watch, I actually wasn't a big fan of the monologue because I just felt like it was a little forced and spoon-fed. But when I went back to watch it for a second time in theaters, I realized that he was saying it in response to Lex calling him a piece of shit alien. So not only was it spurred on, but it also really was the perfect conclusion to his arc. Yes, based on how those around him saw Clark, but also based on how he saw himself. The message from his parents was something that he always held to such high regard. You know, there's that scene where he's like going through whatever weird sun surgery and they play the message to like calm him down. So when he realized they really sent him there to reign, bro was lost. In other words, he was still putting stake in his Kryptonian heritage, but him declaring himself as human, specifically that being human is his greatest strength, above freaking laser eyes and freeze breath and super riz, is him letting go of his past attachment to Krypton and not letting his heritage define him. It's actually so beautiful, bro. Oh my god. Oh, I forgot to talk about the Justice Gang. Maybe it's because they weren't really that important. Nah, I'm just kidding. I do think that the inclusion of them felt a little forced, since obviously this is the first movie in the new universe. You want to be able to showcase as many people in that universe as you can. But I actually think narratively having so many other superheroes in this movie was a good choice because it shows how Superman stands apart from the rest of them. The Justice Gang are what the government wants Superman to be. They're funded by corporate money, they're politically cautious, they care about PR. Metamorpho is a superhuman that probably just keeps to himself, which you could kind of see as Superman if he like chose not to do anything. And you see how Superman's morals clash with each of them throughout the course of the movie, but by the end, they're all inspired by him and decide to intervene in foreign affairs for the sake of protecting innocent lives, not caring about anything else but saving people. With that said, I kind of wish they committed to that a little bit more and didn't have bro kill the Baravian leader guy just because she was egged on, but there's a learning curve. I guess it's fine. Favorite Justice Gang scene? The Mr. Terrific scene is pretty great because bro's just so nonchalant. And with the song playing in the back, you could really tell that James Gunn's getting into his Guardians of the Galaxy bag. But honestly, sleeper pick, I'm gonna go with Green Lantern's entrance into Jarhanpur when he's like, sorry kiddos, Superman couldn't make it, but you got an upgrade. Oh, it was so peak, bro. Of course, Ma and Pa Kent were great. I love how authentically old they are. Ma screaming into her phone is so real, bro. And brother, don't even get me started on the bench scene. Oh my goodness. Like, that is the perfect moment to send Clark on the right trajectory before the third act. And his voice breaking at the end too, saying, I couldn't be more proud. Oh! Let's see, is that the entire cast? Jimmy Olsen was funny. I love the entire Daily Planet ensemble. Please give me a Lois-led Daily Planet spin-off series. I'll do anything. Joey was cute. Crypto was cute. I want a dog so bad now. The engineer was was okay. Ultraman was... Oh, Ultraman, duh. How could I miss the main antagonist of the movie? Maybe because there's a bajillion plot lines going on in the third act that is insanely hard to follow. I still love this movie so much, but I'm just one man. I feel like the reveal was pretty obvious from the jump, and I'm not just saying that because I watched a lot of trailer breakdowns and stuff on YouTube. I mean, we have a guy that's going toe-to-toe with Superman, with the exact same power set, the exact same frame, and we can't see his face. Who could be under that mask? And I know a lot of people might feel like it's a really basic and kind of annoying twist to the movie. I'm looking at you, Gemini Man, for literally ruining this trope. But while I've had time to sit on it, I've kind of grown to love it, and I feel like it's like the perfect reveal for this story. Superman is fighting a version of himself that is being controlled by Lex, right? So while Lex's whole thing in this movie is that he's jealous of Superman's superhumanness, this is the closest thing he's gonna get, and he knows that, and he's accepting it. And when he has the upper hand, he emphasizes that brain beats brawn, essentially reducing Clark to a dumbass who's only special because he can fly and stuff. But when Clark has Crypto take out all the drones and is now essentially fighting an NPC, he flips that around on Lex, not just because he's now the smarter one, but because he finally realized that brain does beat brawn, that his greatest strength isn't his physical genetic makeup, but who he is inside and who he chooses to be. It's so beautiful. Oh my god, it's so good. And the imagery of having Clark overcome that by literally letting the brawn version of himself get sucked into an infinite void is so clear. Like, I can't believe I didn't put that together until my third time watching it. Anyways, I feel like this whole video has been kind of a mess, so let's really lock in. I think this movie is the perfect Superman movie in broad strokes. The message that it tells is something deeper and more sincere than any of the other ones before it, and it's also a message that I feel like really gets at the core of Superman's character. My main complaint is just that with all the pressure that was on James Gunn's shoulders to do Superman right, it feels like he was really adamant on trying to create the quintessential Superman movie, mixing in all these different storylines that tackle Superman's character from different angles at different scales, and it just ends up overcrowding the plot a lot. It's something that I didn't really mind because I think the movie's just an enjoyable watch as is, but on paper, it is a little messy. You have the conflict with Baravia, Lex splitting Metropolis in half, Lex fighting Superman with the Ultraman clone, Lex and Baravia's alliance that motivates the Daily Planet's third act, the Justice Gang being reluctant to work alongside Superman because of their political concerns, and Lois and Clark's rocky romance. Oh, and Superman's public image being tarnished in the internal turmoil. Internal turmoil? Did I really write that? Internal struggle that it's causing him. That's a lot for 1 2-hour movie, bro. And because of that, it does kind of feel like the third act has a bajillion loose threads to tie up, and they're just going down the list, checking boxes. Now, the reason I say it's the perfect Superman movie in broad strokes is because there's only so much that you could fit in one movie, right? And while I'd argue that every character dynamic and character motivation that gets tackled in this movie is done damn near perfectly, probably, I'll say perfectly, I also feel like James Gunn's efforts to tell a deeper story here doesn't fully allow for all of those facets to get fleshed out to their complete potential. I didn't want to play the comparison game too much because I feel like you're going to get that all over the internet, but let's look at Superman 78. This movie interpolates the theme of that movie. The credits at the end look super similar to the ones from that movie. There's clearly a lot of homage here. And while I think Superman 78 is also a pretty perfect depiction of Superman and his ensemble, it does stay very surface level. You know, the best way I could put it is 78 shows all Superman's characters with accurate representations of them that strike all the beats you want them to, with great performances and great writing, but it doesn't pull back the curtain on any of them. Instead, the plot is very straight to the point, and you know, it's great, revolutionary for its time, but storytelling has evolved since then. We should expect more. Superman 25 asks why Superman is the way he is, why Lex is the way he is, why Superman Robot number 4 is the way he is. And because this movie dares to dig deeper into these characters, it just has so much on its agenda, and as a result, it gave me heightened expectations that didn't fully get delivered on. Like I mentioned with Lois, you know, you're getting much more depth to her character than Margot Kidder's iteration, but it establishes a deeper level of complexity that kind of gets side-shafted at the end. It really is a champagne problem at the end of the day. Like, I still love this movie so much. I'm just being hypercritical. But wait, I do have one new critique that arose somewhere in the 4th to 5th rewatch range. Once Jimmy and Lois published their article, all of these news broadcasts are talking about how Lex was really the evil one, and we all owe Superman a big apology. Looks like he was a hero after all. Nah, man. That's too easy. Now, obviously, James Gunn is a far better writer, director, and storyteller than me, so take this with a grain of salt. But if I were to write the ending of this movie, my main change would be, rather than all of these news sources deducing that Superman is scot-free on their own, I'd have Lois and Clark actually do another interview at the end. It parallels the beginning, coming full circle, and this time they would end the interview with a kiss instead of it turning into a fight. Because growth and maturation and open your eyes, woman. How could you not love this man? And I'd have Clark say something along the lines of, truth is, the footage is not doctored. I was sent here by my parents to F a lot of women and make Krypton the sequel. Too fast, too Kryptonian, but that is not what I've ever planned to do. Then you could take some of the being human stuff from the original monologue and put it here. Because when that moment happens in the movie, there's part of me that was like, okay, that's great. Now, can you say it again on camera? Lois does her pushing back a little and is like, you can't really blame the public for finding it difficult to trust you after that. And Clark goes, of course not. But I can assure you I will continue to do what I can to win it back. And you know what? That leaves room in the future to have some members of society still not fully trust him, which could lead to all sorts of villain origin stories. I think that this small change would tie the completion of Superman's arc a little more to his role as a hero for the people instead of its connection to his relationship with Lex. In my opinion, that was always kind of what it was about. So yeah, was this whole rewrite necessary? Hell no. But I had the idea and wanted to share it. James Gunn, comment down below if you want to hire me for any DC projects. I'm probably going to give it an 8.5. At the end of the day, anyone is going to tell you that a movie is meant to make you feel feelings. And the feeling I got from this one is just completely unmatched. The hope that Clark portrays in this movie really seeps into every aspect of it. It rubs off on all the characters, inspiring them to lead with compassion and love. And it rubs off on you while you're watching. And if you weren't walking out of the theater smiling after Clark Kent rubbed off on you, I don't think you have a heart. Might want to get that checked out. Going into our little award segment, obviously I'm going to have to give the MVP to David Cornsweet because he just had the most to do. And what can I say? He killed it, man. I have no complaints. I really want to give it to Lois Lane because I do think that that's my favorite casting in the movie. She just didn't get enough to do for me to justify it. So fine, David Cornsweet, just take the award and run, okay? Just get off stage. I don't care. And my top 3 moments, number 3 is gonna be the monologue because it's just so cathartic for Clark's character, and it really is the moment you walk out of the theater thinking about. It's got to be really hard to create a scene that's so intimate that could serve as this big sigh of relief to such a huge scale movie. But James Gunn did it, and James Gunn did it well. I don't think the scene pulls out that well, James Gunn, but in the context of the movie, James Gunn, it's pretty fire, James Gunn. You did a good job, James Gunn. Number 2 is the real punk rock scene for the same reason that I said it was my favorite Clark scene. It just gets to the core of Superman's character in a way that isn't spoon-fed to you, but it's just really concise and it makes you go, ah. That's probably the scene I've been quoting the most after seeing Superman. Maybe listening to Taylor Swift is the real punk rock. Ever think of that? And number 1 is the Pa Kent scene. The romance stuff definitely gets me, but don't do the father-son stuff. All right, that's how you Thanos snap me out of existence. I'm always gonna have a soft spot for Superman 78, but as far as a modern adaptation of Superman's characters, it doesn't really get better than this. Anyways, comment down below your thoughts on the movie, what you would rate it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'm planning on doing a Peacemaker video, so that's probably next. You piece of shit, Edger! See, that's where you've always been wrong about me, Lex. I'm just as performative as anyone else. I drink matcha, I collect Labubus, I listen to Claro, I wake up every morning, and despite having minus aura, I try to crack as many gyats as I can. I goon all the time. But that is being a Costco chicken bake, and that's my greatest strength.